If everyone please rise and join me in the Lord's Prayer, it will be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance by Mr. Adams. Excuse me. Be thy name. Give us our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you to whoever started. I had another sneeze on deck. Okay, on behalf of the council, we'd like to welcome you to tonight's meeting. We will have a section in each area on each of the ordinances for approval for public comment before the council discusses it and votes on the ordinances. If you would like to address the council on anything else or any of the resolutions that are here tonight, you can fill out a blue public wishing to address the council form located by the back door and get it to the council clerk prior to the public wishing to address the council section. Okay, we'll move to item A, approval of minutes. Have a motion by Mr. Jones to accept the minutes of July 12th, 2022 regular session, second by Mr. Adam. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes 7 yeas, 0 nays, 2 absences being Mr. Melvin and Mrs. Chasson. Item B, state or federal legislative updates. Any state or federal legislators? Okay, item C, proclamation. Item 2, proclamation honoring Mr. Morris Grow Guidry Jr. for his 48 years of exceptional service to the Rotary Club of Golden Meadow by Mr. Lorraine. Mr. Lorraine.
Yeah, first of all, I want to say a few words about Mr. Guidry. He earned this award, and he's been in the Rotary, and I'll tell you in the proclamation, 48 years. And one thing that I really want to recognize the Rotary for, the Golden Meadow Rotary, is that when Hurricane Ida hit on August the 29th, these people were with us at the Veterans. They worked for about 2.5 months. We even served hot dogs without the hot dog bun, the old sliced bread. Whatever we had, and you can't imagine how much stuff was given at the Veterans. And with that, Kevin Sheremy and Yo-Yo Griffin were the 2 guys operating all the equipment for the Veterans, and they let us use the facility. But we didn't just have the Golden Meadow Rotary, we had the Cajun Navy, we had the Red Cross, and the Golden Meadow Rotary. So I can tell you, I've been friends with Grow, everybody calls him Grow, whatever. He worked pretty hard in his life. He was an electrician, but a marine electrician. When you go in the engine room of a boat, and it's 90 degrees outside, well, it's 130 in that engine room. And he did that for a long time. He didn't do much housework. So with all that said, now I'm going to read the proclamation, and I think Ms. Babin did a great job on this proclamation, because it touches just about everything that was turned in. So let's see if I'll read it. And I'd like to take a picture with Gro after, and then all his Rotarian friends that came here. So let's see. Whereas, as requested on behalf of Councilman Lorraine, District 9, the Lafourche Parish Council wishes to honor Mr. Morris Grow Guidry Jr. for his 48 years of exceptional service to the Rotary Club of Golden Meadow. And whereas Mr. Morris Joseph Guidry Jr., known as most as Grow, was born on March the 16th, 1945. Mr. Guidry, the youngest of 9 children, with one being an adopted cousin, was the only one of his siblings that was able to graduate from high school. After his graduation in 1964 from La Rose Cutoff High, Mr. Guidry went on to graduate from Delgado College, Community College in 1967. Where he studied to be an electrician. He furthered his electrician experience while in college by working with his future father-in-law in 1963. Mr. Guidry married Linda Terrio in 1966, and they have 2 daughters, Rochelle and Renetta. And whereas Mr. Guidry became a marine electrician, which he served in the capacity for 54 years. In addition to Guidry's electrical and refrigeration contractors, he also owned two other businesses, that being Rose Daiquiri and Mr. Enterprise in Golden Meadow. He has been a resident of Golden Meadow since 1966, and whereas in 1974, Mr. Guidry began his journey in being involved with the community. That same year, he joined the Rotary Club of Golden Meadow. This year marks his 48th year in the Rotary Club, and of those 48 years, he has achieved 42 years of perfect attendance. Over the years, he became involved in numerous organizations and public boards. In 2021, he received recognition from Lieutenant Governor Nungesser for his years of service of receiving the Louisiana Volunteer Service Award. And whereas Mr. Guidry has served on the following Rotary Club of Golden Meadow, serving as president 4 times and serving on the board of directors, Rotary District 6200, serving as district assistant to district governor 3 times, as well as a voting delegate. Knights of Columbus, Grand Knight of Golden Meadow Chapter, Faithful Navigator of Golden Meadow Chapter, 4th Degree Knight, Crew of Atlantis, Crew of Neptune, Cajun Coon, Lafourche Parish Water District, Lafourche Parish Fire District 3, and the Housing Authority of Lafourche Parish. Now therefore be it resolved by the Lafourche Parish Council convened in regular session on July 26, 2022, we do hereby honor Mr. Morris Guidry in his 48 years of exceptional service to the Rotary Club of Golden Meadow. In witness thereof, I, Daniel Lorraine, Councilman District 9 of the Lafourche Parish Council, do hereby set my signature and have cause to be affixed the official seal of the Lafourche Parish Council, State of Louisiana, this 26th day of July 22nd, Matthews, Louisiana. Grow. Can we take a picture of the Rotarians if y'all want to come?
Mr. Guidry, would you like to make a few remarks?
My name is Morris Guidry. I live in Golden Meadow, 176 Barrett Street. And again, I'm surprised. Last week, my Rotary Club surprised me by honoring me. And then I have this by the Parish Council. I really appreciate all of this. And like I said, it wouldn't be for the club, the Rotary Club of Golden Meadow. They are essentially good people, and we do a lot of work. And thank you all for the parish, and of course, our politicians that support us to do what we do for the club, for the community. We appreciate all the help that you all do for us. Thank you all very much, and again, I'm honored for this. Thank you very much.
Well, Mr. Guidry, Mr. Lorraine said a mouthful, and he went on, but all those are your achievements. And on behalf of the council, we'd like to thank you for the donation of your time and efforts to the community. We need more people like you. Thank you very much, sir. Okay, moving into item D, presentations and our updates. Item number 3, we have Mr. Matthew Margaglio with Kohler, Slavin and Company, LLC, to discuss the 2021 audit.
Good evening and thank you. My name is Matthew Margaglio. I'm a partner with Kohler, Slavin & Company, 200 South Main Street, Abbeville, Louisiana. I'm going to go over the financial report this year for the year ending December 31st, 2021. You should have received a copy of the report and possibly a handout to go over this evening. We're going to go through this very quickly, and if you have any questions, please stop me along the way. Your financial report is about 300 pages long, so we're not going to cover all of those pages, obviously. It concludes 4 key elements that I do want to discuss tonight. Our independent auditors report on the financial statements, our report on internal controls, our report on federal awards, and the financial statements themselves. The 3 reports that are ours, the independent auditors reports that I described, talk about the financial responsibility of management for the accounting records, internal controls, compliance with laws, and preventing and detecting fraud. It also describes our responsibilities and what we do in the course of an audit, obtaining an understanding of the operations, how they comply with the compliance requirements from the Legislative Auditor's Office, how they operate, and we do enough testing procedures to express an opinion on the financial statements, as well as a few other elements. Overall, the results of our audit is that we were able to issue an unmodified opinion on the financial statements. It's considered a clean opinion and the best opinion that you can receive from a financial statement audit. It means that the users of these financials, your constituents, the bond agencies, the state and local governments who are issuing grant monies to you, they can rely on the financial data in here when they're determining the reasonableness of the information, comparability with other organizations similar in size and operations, and everybody can use and rely on the accuracy and truthfulness of this information. We also looked at your federal awards, which you receive a substantial amount of, and we test certain programs in accordance with federal rules and regulations. We look at those for compliance elements that we're told from the federal government itself, and we noted no non-compliance, so we issued a clean opinion there. And due to the dollar amount that y'all receive, that's a pretty impressive feat to achieve on an annual basis. Compliance with financial laws, we look at some guidelines from the Legislative Auditor's Office out of Baton Rouge. They have some key elements that local governments should comply with, and they ask us to come in and test it, and we do that as part of the audit. If anything was material or significant, we would report it at this time. We had one element that we wanted to bring to y'all's attention. It's related to the budget. This year was a bit unique, and you're going to hear it throughout the presentation due to the hurricane. Requirements are that when your budget is out of variance by 5%, you amend the budget. The parish did that consistently throughout the year, but as you get closer and closer to December, especially in this hurricane environment, we don't know how much money we're getting from the federal government. We don't know how much money we're getting from the state or when it's coming in. We also don't know how much money we're going to be spending on repairs, maintenance, improvements, infrastructure. All of that stuff comes in late, and you're doing a best guess effort. Management did a pretty good job. The council did a good job of making those amendments as best they could, but missed the target in a couple of areas. So we are required by the legislative auditor to report it. However, it's not as significant as it may seem because of where y'all are. Overall, the financial adjustments and what was made was relatively accurate when we factor out all of that unusual and unique information. As far as significant deficiencies, material weaknesses, and internal controls, we had none to report at this time. As far as the financial information goes, and if you're going through the handout, we're on page 2. And again, some of this information here is related to the timing of the hurricane and what happened with the finances. As y'all may know, the ad valorem taxes were late, basically. Normally, y'all get a substantial amount of money in December, January, and February. That didn't come in. It started to come in the June time frame. So now y'all are recouping that. But these numbers have to be accurate as of December 31st, so it doesn't reflect that ad valorem money that was supposed to come in. Your total governmental revenues was about $49 million, down from $62 million. Your total expenditures was up to about $75.9 million. And again, a lot of that is hurricane recovery and grant related, leaving you with an ending fund balance of about $67 million. That's down from $84 million in the prior year. If we flip on to page 3, this is, in my opinion, a kind of telling piece of information. Your ad valorem taxes for the year was about $1 million. Last year, it was $23.6 million. Now, I did reach out to finance this morning. They told me that as of this week, you've recouped about $2 million in the general fund already, and about $18 million. So you add 18 to the 1 million, you're only about $4 million short as of right now, which is pretty good recovery. And next year is probably going to reflect 2 years of ad valorem taxes. So when we come back here, we should see 40 million of ad valorem instead of 1 million. So it's kind of going to skew this information again. Other information that y'all have in here, 18 million of sales tax revenue. That's up substantially from the prior year, as well as your federal sources, all your federal grants, about $17 million. That's up approximately $6 million from the year before. The other numbers are relatively consistent from period over period. If we look on page 4, you'll spend about 39% of it on public works. That's consistent with prior years. Capital outlay, general government, culture and recreation, everything else kind of retained where it was for the parish. So expenditures are not out of line in how y'all are spending the money. If we look at page 5, this is your general fund, and we have all of your revenue sources. And we talked about ad valorem taxes not being there, but your revenue is up to $14 million, up from the prior year. You did receive a significant amount of federal grants that got put in your general fund, so that offsets some of those losses. The other number here is your expenditures and transfers out was up to about $16 million. One of the primary reasons for that increase, and we'll see it in a little bit better detail in just a minute, is transfers out. Your general fund is allowed to basically fund everything else. It's your catch-all fund. So as your other funds are running short on their ad valorem money, since it didn't come in, the general fund had to move money over there in order to finance basic operations, salaries and benefits, basically to keep the lights on, is where a lot of that money ended up going. And that left you with basically zero fund balance in your general fund. Again, the property taxes are going to start to come in, and a lot of that is going to be replenished and recouped in the next year or two. So your revenues by sources, we've already talked about this and hit on the highlights. The numbers look odd because of the lack of ad valorem taxes. Overall, your dollars and cents in these areas stayed the same, but it shows how much of your ad valorem skews the graphics when we're looking at this year over year. And on page 7, the last thing just to point out, 31% transfers out. Typically, y'all have very little transfers out, less than 5% historically. The general fund had to fund that much in the other departments to keep the lights on, as I said. So it's not that y'all spent less in the other areas. The general fund maintained its operations, but you had to help support those other entities, those other funds. And that's why it's important that we maintain a high and healthy fund balance in your general fund as we recoup all of this money. In the event something like this happens again, you want to have the ability to keep funding what you need to for general government services to provide for the citizens of the parish. If there are any questions, I can go into anything in more detail.
I'd like to thank Mr. Lorraine for sitting with the audit folks as the council representative. Mr. Groh.
Do y'all represent like any other coastal parishes or municipalities maybe that were affected by Hurricane Ida?
We do. We have an office in Morgan City that operates several entities down in that area. The city of Morgan City,
And the
very
general
similar.
fund is pretty much consistent, but
Yeah. Another coastal parish is Vermilion Parish. They weren't hit as hard, but we went through it with Rita pretty bad too.
yeah, we're always waiting on some. I had a question too about the licenses and permits, 30 to 35%. Because we waived a lot of permits? Is that what, it still went up a little bit, but, okay.
Yeah, so we waived everything from Hurricane Ida until the beginning of July for permits, so those things went, because after that, everything was a storm damage permit, right?
Cool, thank you.
Anybody else with any questions? Thank you, Mr. Matthew.
Thank you very much. Y'all have a good evening.
You as well, sir. Item 4, Dr. Laura Battle, President of Lafourche Parish Commission for Women, to present the Commission's report on Louisiana Girls Leadership Academy. Dr. Battle, if you could just pull the microphone down to mouth level, make sure you state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes, ma'am.
Laura Batto, 917 Jackson Street, Thibodaux, Louisiana, President, Lafourche Commission for Women. The short 2-page wrap-up report on the Louisiana Girls Leadership Academy that is in front of you was emailed to each of you on Friday. I hope you had a chance to read it. And each councilman has previously received copies of the entire LGLA program as it progressed. All invoices for the Louisiana Girls Leadership Academy have been paid, except the 2 final invoices from Nicholls State University for student bed and board. They are attached to this report and total $11,887. The Lafourche Commission for Women asks the council to request that President Chasson, through a supplemental funding, pay the Nicholls State University invoices. The commission has its own bank account at United Community Bank in Thibodaux. We urge the council to earnestly consider the necessity of LGLA support from Lafourche to help keep LGLA at Nicholls State University, although most funding for the program is outside of Lafourche and outside of the parishes NSU serves. Any questions?
Anyone with anything from Dr. Batto? All right, Dr. Batto, thank you for the information. Ms. Lorraine?
Yes, is the administration going to look at this and possibly take care of this?
So we will, I talked to Delenn, in the conversations that we had during the budget year, the only thing that we had planned the budget was 10,000. So her bill is 11,000 and some change, they're gonna have to make up that difference, but yeah.
So you could bring a supplemental on that?
Councilwoman Chesson agreed to sponsor it. We had some conversations about that last week.
Okay, so it's not going to drag on forever? Okay, thank you.
No, we have worked with Nicholls to have a month to be able to finish up with everything. And one more thing, just one sentence. The Lafourche Commission for Women is working to obtain its 501c3 status and fundraising for 2 programs to be reported to the council by October. Both programs will be for the benefit of women in public service and professional service, but one program, which will be called Sense, CENTS, and Common Sense, will be marketed to both men, women, and organizations. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Batto. Okay, item E, Legal Advisory Report. We have none. We'll move into item F, Engineers and Architects. Doesn't appear we have any there either. Okay, item G, Public wishing to address the council, public hearings, agenda items. Ms. Carlene.
Ms. Shanna Ellen de Uretich, come to the podium. State your name and address for the record. Please remember you have 3 minutes.
Okay. I have a little timer right here because
So
I can
do I.
talk. I'm Shanna Ellen de Uretich. My address is 466 Crossing North Street in Thibodaux, 70301. I think that many people might be surprised about what I'm going to talk about tonight. And so I feel like as parents and grandparents in this community, it's something that we need to be aware of. So I just wanted to share this information with everyone here. It's about the federal government and the transgender agenda that they're pushing right now is starting to come into our schools. And we would think down here, this will never happen. There's no way this will happen. But you may be surprised. So Title IX was written to prevent discrimination based on sex, right? Well, the government is trying to change the definition of sex to also include sexual preference, and the USDA did just that. So what they're thinking over what they're trying to do or possibly going to do is to take away federal lunch money from the schools if they do not allow transgender children to go into the opposite sex's restrooms. And it sounds crazy, but it's really happening. So where we are with this is once this came out earlier this year in May, 26 attorneys general across the United States, including Jeff Landry, wrote a letter to the federal government and said this is not legal. You didn't go through the legislature. You can't just do this. You can't just make a rule and say we're going to do this. Our Louisiana superintendent, Cade Brumley, then sent letters to the USDA and I believe, I'm not sure who else in the federal government for clarification. What does this mean? What do the schools have to do to be in compliance? And what's going to happen if we're not in compliance? Do we have to use different pronouns? Those kinds of things that are kind of up for debate these days. So just kind of like what are the regulations and what happens if we're not in compliance, because no one really knows. It's not a law. It's kind of like a rule is how the Deputy Solicitor General explained it last week. So today, just to keep you guys up to date on what's happening today, the Tennessee filed a new lawsuit with the USDA to say we don't think it's legal for you to withhold federal lunch money because it does come from the federal government. We don't think it's legal for you to do this. So they filed that today. Jeff Landry and 22 other states have now asked for a preliminary injunction until that lawsuit is complete. I know that Jeff Landry did say he's willing to go all the way to the Supreme Court to stop this from happening. Like I said, it's something that sounds crazy, like it would never happen, but some kind of way it's happening. And it seems like what's happened, in my opinion, what's happening is that, oh, sorry. I'm done. My time's up. Okay, stop.
You have another minute on the clock, and you can continue.
Oh, okay, thank you so much. Jeff Landry said that, I think this is where I was, that he'll go to the Supreme Court to stop this. But wait, I was saying something. I'm sorry? Okay, so in my opinion, what's happening with this agenda, and I'll be honest, that this is not my issue. It's not the transgender issue. The two issues with me are little boys going into little girls' bathrooms and taking the federal lunch money program away from students who need the federal lunch money program if the schools do not comply with whatever this is that they decide is going to be the rule. So just really quickly, last year in Georgia, a 16-year-old boy who was considered gender fluid, which means you get to choose what you're going to be. That's one of the categories. At his school in Georgia, was allowed to go into a girl's restroom. He's 16 years old. He raped a 14-year-old girl. The school board did nothing but take that student and move him into the district next to them. 6 months later, he raped another girl in the girl's restroom because he claimed to be a female that day. So this can happen, some kind of way it is happening, and now it's possibly coming to our community in Lafourche Parish. So I just wanted to make people aware that this was happening, and if there's something we can do to be proactive, we may want to have that conversation.
Anyone with any questions for Ms. Shanna? We thank you for that, ma'am.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for letting me speak.
Ms. Jamie Malbrew, if you'd come to the podium, state your name and address for the record, Ms. Malbrew, and please remember you have 3 minutes.
Jamie Marble, 116 Sealess Lane, Lockport.
She can't hear you, Ms. Jamie. Can you pull it down or get a little closer? Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to kind of explain how the free lunch program works. Basically, you're thinking the United States Department of Agriculture, what are they doing giving free lunch? But that's how it works. And when they come into a school district, let's say it costs $5 for lunch. We're already on a reduced plan for everybody in the parish because we know that's kind of a high price. So they subsidize to bring that price down, as well as reduce lunch and free lunch. And that money comes from the U.S. Department of Agriculture. And what she's saying is very true. It's something we've kind of hit on once at the school board. And I want to thank you all for letting us speak here and using our First Amendment right, because unfortunately we're not able to do that at the school board. And my concern with the whole thing is what she was saying that happened to the girl in, was it Georgia? Was in Loudoun County. And my concern comes at the high school level, and especially in middle school, high school, when things start changing for kids. And I mean, it's not appropriate for, I feel, girls or boys to be mixing in a bathroom. But the scary part is if it's not truly what it's intended for, and someone goes and does what they did in the pilot program in Loudoun County, we're going to be in a lot of trouble, y'all. So I just want to say thank y'all for letting Ms. Shanna speak and letting myself speak, and that's all.
Anybody have any questions for Ms. Marlborough? Thank you very much, ma'am.
Ms. Paula Rome, come to the podium, Ms. Rome. State your name and address for the record. Please remember you have 3 minutes.
She actually has a
Sorry.
presentation.
You have a presentation.
Hello, everyone. My name is Paula Rome. I'm here to reintroduce myself as your new Intertree Customer Service Manager for the Bayou region. So if you guys, as councilmen or parish staff, need help with energy issues, I'm the one you call. What is circulating around is this presentation and a copy of my business card. So please take a copy of that. I'm here today to give some education. Everybody has questions about the utility bills and the rates that is going up, and also a little bit of information about preparing for a storm. Next slide, Robbie, please. Okay, so there's three major components on your energy bills. I know they could be quite confusing. The first component is your actual usage charge. As we know, it's the summer heat, we're having record-breaking temperatures, so everybody's using their air conditioner a little bit higher. The second major component is what Energy calls the fuel adjustment, which is a direct correlation to the natural gas prices going up, and we'll talk about a lot about that a little bit later. And the third component is the storm recovery charges. The important thing to note here is that the fuel adjustment charges, being the natural gas prices going up, and the storm recovery charges, Energy does not profit off of either of those, unfortunately, from my paycheck. We can't profit 1 penny off of either of those. Those prices are set by the Public Service Commission and regulated directly to us. Next slide, Robbie. So as we are all seeing the price of natural gas affecting everything we do now, from, you know, what we put the gas in our car to the groceries that we shop, the cost of natural gas is affecting Energy. It is how we generate power at our generation facilities. It is continuing to rise. As a result, we have had higher than normal costs, and that we are seeing that now in our customer bills as a fuel adjustment charge. Higher natural gas prices is a fact that our customers are now accounting for, as you see on your bills, with this record-breaking summer heat on top of that. Next slide, Robbie. So as you can see here, we broke down from 2020 to 2022 July residential bill breakdown for 100 kilowatts of consumption. So the green line at the top shows you what we call other charges, taking out the storm charges and the fuel charges. And you can see that over the last 2 years, the typical energy rates have increased from about $77 to $82, and that's for 100 kilowatts of hours, okay? You can also see at the bottom that the purple, well, on this screen is more of a bluish color, the big bar is the fuel cost, and the smaller bar is all the storm cost. So you can see pretty quickly how much the fuel cost is affecting your bills, which is the biggest impact on your bills over the last 2 years, and you can see how they've grown. Robbie, if you'll go to the next slide. This slide shows you the fuel costs as opposed to your other charges. So fuel costs, unfortunately, on our bills have increased by $44 per 1,000 kilowatts, or 250% in the last 2 years. So, you know, there's a lot of talk about energy bills, and there's a lot of discussion out there. I just wanted to come here and just educate the public, educate you guys. We're getting a lot of questions about it, obviously, but to educate you guys that the main reason your electricity bills are going up is the main reason that we're all suffering right now. At the gas pump, at the grocery store, everything in that is the price of natural gas. Can you go to the next slide, Robbie? So fuel costs have increased 18% over the total residential bill from July 2020 to now being 40% of your total bill in July 2022. I'll just reiterate that Energy Louisiana cannot earn a profit off of fuel. It's a straight pass-through from Louisiana Public Service Commission order. Next slide, Robbie. So there's a bunch of ways that Energy is trying to help residential customers pay their bill. I know Lafourche Parish government has, with their community action group, is helping customers do that. We are actually having an internal big meeting on Friday to discuss an inflation strategy to further put in some different strategies to help our customers. We know this is a big problem for a lot of our customers, especially customers that are low income. Next slide, Robbie. As of right now, level billing is helping some of our customers. We do offer payment extensions, which is helping some of our customers, and we do offer deferred payment arrangements. Now, before we go any further, I do want to point out that on the news today, I know in the New Orleans channels, there was talk this morning and at lunchtime that Energy is waiving disconnect fees till November. that may happen from Energy Louisiana. I haven't got word of that yet, but what they're talking about in the news today is coming from Energy New Orleans. There is a difference between Energy New Orleans and Energy Louisiana. Energy New Orleans is regulated by the New Orleans City Council, so that's different. They pushed that directive down to Energy New Orleans last night at the council meeting, is what I understand. Energy Louisiana is meeting with the Public Service Commission tomorrow to put forth to them some of our plans to decrease some of this weight on our customers. And so I will know Friday more of what Energy Louisiana's plans are, but I just wanted to clear that up because I've gotten a lot of questions today saying we're pushing back bills where people don't have to pay them to November. That is yes and no. That's Energy New Orleans, not necessarily Energy Louisiana, which we're all underneath right now. Not saying that Energy Louisiana won't be doing that. We just haven't got the official word. We have to get approval from the Public Service Commission before we do any of those things yet. Okay, next, Robbie. Not to keep y'all much longer, just very quickly, as you all know, we always are prepared for a storm and different ways that people can get in touch with us during a storm. Notifications at myenergy.com, the Storm Center, social media, and we obviously have an outage map that anybody can view at any time. One more slide, Robbie. And this just talks about major storms can cause extended outage restorations. You guys totally understand that, just so the public understands. Hopefully, we all hope, I'm knocking on wood, hopefully we don't have any storms this year, right? We're not ready for it, and we need some more time to recover, so we're praying for that.
Anyone with any questions for Mrs. Rome? Mr. Oten?
So, question, any emails that are sent to Stacy, is she still gonna respond to them? You're gonna get forward them? Because I'm just realizing now that I've been sending emails to her and I have not been getting responses, and now I know why. Because she was very responsive.
You can forward them to me, Armin. I know she's responded to some of them, but we are changing roles. So just to clarify that, people asking, what happened to Stacy? Stacy is still here. I'm taking over all the government accounts. She's in the same territory, but she's handling all the big businesses, like John Deere, the hospital, stuff like that, the big managed accounts. So I'm taking all the government accounts. So moving forward, you should send that to me. So if you've sent some to her she hasn't responded to, you can forward that over to me.
Got it. So just so y'all know, we've been kind of juggling, trying to get poles that are still halfway leaning down. We've got some that's over elderly people's residences that have transformers. Energy just quickly came in after the storm and put a new pole with a transformer that was easy to access. So the old poles are still leaning over houses. The other thing is I want to recognize and thank Energy, because I know you'll be coming to the fire station on Monday night. Eric Benoit, who was employed, works in the Office of Homeland Security, worked with Energy and got I think it's a $4,000 grant. The check's going to come to Lockport, but it really is to buy hot sticks for all the different fire departments, the 11 different departments in the parish. So thank Energy for that. I also thank Eric with the Lafourche Parish government for working on that.
Thank you, Mr. Oten. Mr. Groh?
Yeah, okay. And I don't want to shoot the messenger. I mean,
That's
I'm sure
okay.
you heard it all. The things, and you can't believe everything you read, but similar to Katrina, when BP's turning profits and stuff like that, and the horrendous deal, it's tough for people to swallow the CEO getting, if that's true, $4 million bump, and shareholders getting paid dividends. If I own stock in Energy, I wouldn't expect to get a return when I know all this stuff's going on. That's what people are coming to me about, like, man, what is going on? I have levelized billing. I know it's hotter in my house. It's an old house. I can understand these charges. I look at the little bar graph, every bill, before this. So I just don't understand how, and we don't have competition over here. It's straight up just Energy. I get the frontline workers making extra money, and these people come all over the place. I just don't understand how a shareholder how a president can accept that kind of bonus, and shareholders get dividends when Michael Groh might be paying for it. I just don't get that, in a fee, and that's the frustration. And I've talked to the frontline workers that and helped feed them and things like that came around, and I hope we're in a better position than we were before. That we have better equipment and we're not just putting up the same type of things that'll just blow down again. Because we're gonna keep having the same issues unless we get a better infrastructure.
I think we are, Michael. I think we are hardening the grid and doing better. Like Mr. Otan said, we, right after the storm, we just hurried up and tried to get people's power on. But I've seen since I've been here in the short 2 months that, that we're going back and fixing those problems and replacing things with better equipment. We're having the same issues as everybody else. I know some of our transformers have been on back order, some of the poles have been on back order. The same issues, supply issues everybody else is having, but I see them doing a better job than what they've done in the past. Now, as far as the salary CEO, that's way
Right, I get it.
beyond
I
my
mean,
pay
that's his
grade. I have
contract,
voiced
but
the same thing, and I've
that's
seen
hard
the
for
same
you to
things,
get in
right?
front of it. And I'm
Right.
like, it's nothing against you. It's just
No,
like,
I understand.
how can they push these things out and give on the other side? I don't
Right,
get it.
right, I understand.
Thank you, Mr. Grove. Mr. Adams.
Yeah, I don't care about the money thing. I just care about my electricity going out. When are we gonna upgrade the infrastructure? I am tired of blackouts when it's hot. I'm tired of blackouts when it's raining. I don't care how much they make, just fix it so that way my air conditioner don't shut off in the middle of the night or in the middle of the day when it's hot. That's all I care about. Work on infrastructure and I'm good.
Gotcha.
Thank you, Mr. Adams.
Our area has not had a blackout yet this summer. 5? 4?
All righty, well, thank you for that update, Mrs.
That must
Rome,
have
and
been
welcome
before my
aboard.
time, I'm sorry.
Thank you, ma'am.
Y'all call me if y'all need something. Thank you.
That's my last one.
All right, Ms. Carleen advises there's none other. So item H, council reports, news, and announcements. Anyone with anything to report or announce? All right, we'll move on to item I, public hearing and ordinances for ratification. Motion by Mr. Adams, second by Mr. Jones to open public hearing. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes 7 yeas, 0 nays, 2 absences, being Mr. Melvin and Mrs. Chasson. Item number 5, ordinance amending ordinance number 5445, removing to establish the maximum salaries of the members of the Lafourche Parish Council, to establish the maximum salary of the Lafourche Parish Council Chairman, as well as to set a 2% annual increase, and amending and reenacting Chapter 2, Article 3, Section 2-76, Parish Council salary of the Lafourche Parish Code of Ordinances as it pertains to amending the establishing of the salary of the Lafourche Parish Council effective with the next term of office year, removing 2016 and adding 2024. Motion by Mr. Adams, second by Mr. Jones. Any discussion? All right, any public comment? Second call, public. Third and final call, public. With no council discussion, we'll take it to a vote. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes 7 yeas, 0 nays, 2 absences, being Mr. Melvin and Mrs. Chasson. Item 6, ordinance amending ordinance number 5971 and amending and reenacting Chapter 2, Administration, Article 3, Provisions Governing Operations of Parish Governing Body, Division 1, generally, Section 2-68, Parish President's Salary of the Lafourche Parish Code of Ordinances as it pertains to amending the establishing of the salary of the Lafourche Parish President effective with the next term of office year, removing 2020 and adding 2024. Motion by Mr. Adams, second by Mr. Jones. Any public comment? Second call, public. Third and final call, public. Any council discussion? Okay, Mr. Adams.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that everybody understands out in the public that this is not really raises for any of us. Just to get that out there. This is just fixing verbiage that was written. So I don't want anybody to think that we're getting raises. We're not really. It's just fixing verbiage. I know we talked about it last time. I'm just restating it again. Thank you.
Okay, any other further discussion? All right, we'll take it to a vote. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes with 7 yeas, 0 nays, 2 absences, being Mr. Melvin and Mrs. Chasson. Item number 7, ordinance amending and reenacting Chapter 6, Amusements, to create and establish Article 5, video poker devices of the Lafourche Parish Code of Ordinances as it pertains to prohibiting the operation of more than 3 video poker devices within 1 mile of protective properties. Motion by Mr. Grove, second by Mr. Adams. Any public comment? Second call, public. Third and final call, public. Any council discussion? Move it to a vote. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes 7 yeas, 0 nays, 2 absences, being Mr. Melvin and Mrs. Chasson. Item number 8, we are deferring to
August
the
9th.
August 9th meeting. I have a motion to defer it to August 9th by Mr. Grow, second by Mr. Adams. Any public comment? Second call public. Third and final call public. Any council discussion on it? We'll take it to a vote. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes 7 yeas, 0 nays, 2 absences, being Mr. Melvin and Mrs. Chasson. Item number 9, ordinance providing for a 2022 supplemental appropriation 22-012 within the 2022 operations and maintenance budget and capital outlay budget, increasing the budget for priority road list, road sales tax district 2, PT 002 in the amount of $1,260,000 and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said transactions as provided for by Article 6 of Lafourche Parish Home Rule Charter. Motion by Mr. Jones, second by Mr. Adams. Any public comment? Second call public. Third and final call public. Any council discussion? We'll take it to a vote. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes 7 yeas, 0 nays, 2 absences, being Mr. Melvin and Mrs. Chasson. Item 10, ordinance approving a 35-foot drainage and maintenance servitude agreement between Energy Realty Investment Company, LLC, and Lafourche Parish Government in the Thibodaux area, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said agreement and any and all relevant documents. Motion by Mr. Grove, second by Mr. Otan. Any public comment? Second call public. Third and final call public. Any council discussion? We'll take it to a vote. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes 7 yeas, 0 nays, 2 absences, being Mr. Melvin and Mrs. Chasson. Item 11, ordinance approving a 40-foot drainage and maintenance servitude agreement between Energy Realty Investment Company, LLC, and Lafourche Parish Government in the Thibodaux area, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said agreement and any and all relevant documents. Motion by Mr. Groves, second by Mr. Araby. Any public comment? Second call public. Third and final call public. Any council discussion? We'll take it to a vote. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes 7 yeas, 0 nays, 2 absences, being Mr. Melvin and Mrs. Chasson. Item 12, an ordinance approving a servitude agreement between J.B. Levert Land Company, LLC, and Lafourche Parish Government in the Thibodaux area, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said agreement and any and all relevant documents. Moved by Mr. Adams, second by Mr. Jones. Any public comment? Second call public. Third and final call public. Any council discussion? All right, we'll take it to a vote. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes 7 yeas, 0 nays, 2 absences, being Mr. Melvin and Mrs. Chasson. Item 13, an ordinance amending ordinance number 4633 that accepted the subdivision known as Latour Subdivision Phase 1 into the parish system. Motion by Mr. Araby, second by Mr. Otan. Any public comment? Second call public. Third and final call public. Mr. Chasson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I talked to Councilman Araby about this when he agreed to sponsor it, but just so you guys in the public know, we were approached by the new owner of Latour to dededicate the back end of the roadway near the clubhouse that leads to basically just his dumpster pad and a little cul-de-sac. So that's item 14. When we did that, we realized when the parish accepted the initial subdivision, the original road footage was wrong. So this first item actually corrects the road footage from when it was established as a street, and then the next item will actually dededicate the rear portion of that 816 feet back to the owner.
Thank you for that explanation. Any council discussion on item 13? We'll take it to a vote. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes 7 yeas, 0 nays, 2 absences, being Mr. Melvin and Mrs. Chasson. Item 14, an ordinance to dededicate the rear 816 linear feet of Latour Boulevard located in Ward 7, District 6 of Lafourche Parish, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, administer any and all relevant documents. Motion by Mr. Araby, second by Mr. Otan. Any public comment? Second call public. Third and final call public. Any council discussion? Mr. Lorraine.
That's just one owner, huh?
It's just one owner, yes, sir.
Okay.
And it basically, that rear 816 foot, the only thing you can access from that part of the street is the golf course itself. So there's no residences or anything else that'll be blocked from this.
Mr. Otan.
Right, I'm pretty sure I made the inquiry. The parish government, our taxpayers have not done any improvements and there's been no public funds on this section,
No,
which is
sir.
why I was good with it.
Yeah, no, sir.
Any other discussion? All right, item 14, we'll take it to a vote. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes 7 yeas, 0 nays, 2 absences, being Mr. Melvin and Mrs. Chasson. Have a motion by Mr. Jones, second by Mr. Adams, to close public hearing. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes 7 yeas, 0 nays, 2 absences, being Mr. Melvin and Mrs. Chesson. Item J, proposed ordinances. Number 15, proposed ordinance amending and reenacting Chapter 34 of the Lafourche Parish Code of Ordinances as it pertains to special districts and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer any and all relevant documents. Motion by Mr. Jones. Item 16, proposed ordinance approving servitude agreement between Raceland Raw Sugar LLC and the Lafourche Parish Government in the Lockport area and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said agreement and any and all relevant documents by Mr. Otan. Item 17, proposed ordinance approving an access servitude agreement between Raceland Raw Sugar LLC and the Lafourche Parish Government in the Raceland area and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said agreement and any and all relevant documents by Mr. Araby. Item 18, proposed ordinance providing for a 2022 supplemental appropriation 22-013 within the 2022 operations and maintenance budget and capital outlay budget, increasing the budget for LA1, Lafourche Parish Government Center Trailhead Project, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said transactions as provided by Article 6 of the Lafourche Parish Home Rule Charter by Mr. Araby. Item 19, proposed ordinance providing for 2022 supplemental appropriation 22-014 within the 2022 operations and maintenance budget and capital outlay budget, deobligating the Raceland to Valentine Bridge Study Project 21012 and transferring funds to the Nolan Toops Project, Project 21015, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said transactions as provided by Article 6 of the Lafourche Parish Home Rule Charter by Mr. Otan. Moving into item K, resolutions. For the record, Mr. Adams has left the chambers. Item 20, resolution requesting Louisiana Department of Transportation and Development, LADOTD, to sweep the roadside ditch on Highway 3235 from McDonald's Restaurant south to the culverts crossing 3235 that were recently installed by Louisiana Department of Transportation and Development, LADOTD. Motion by Mr. Lorraine, second by Mr. Otan. Any discussion? All right, we'll take it to a vote. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes with 6 yeas, 0 nays, 3 absences, being Mr. Melvin, Ms. Chasson, and Mr. Adams. And for the record, Mr. Adams has re-entered the chambers. Item 21, resolution requesting the administration to contact the state of Louisiana, requesting the link for state of Louisiana Lafourche Parish Register of Voters to be included on Lafourche Parish Government's website. Motion by Mr. Jones, second by Mr. Adams. Any discussion? Take it to a vote. All in favor?
What's going on right here? What exactly we doing? We just want to put the register of voters for Lafourche Parish on our website?
What we doing, Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead.
I had a meeting with 4 other registers that's on the board, the committee. And they thought it was a great idea that we advertise in our parish, on our parish website, with the permission of our administration, that they need to hire people and looking for more people to hire locally. And they seem to not finding the people that, let's say we need people here in this parish and people from Alexander, Shreveport and all, filling out the application and not advertising it locally, so the people here don't know. So doing this, the administration kind of agreed to put it on the website and advertise for our local community.
This is for jobs, job opportunities?
For jobs.
This is a request by our register of voters or no?
It's a request by me to the administration.
Yes, so this should be coming from the register of voters, the, what's that guy's name?
Mike?
This is coming from the council to the administration. The administration go to the register, the state of Louisiana. And the state of Louisiana will send the administration the link.
Okay, I got it. For me, I'm gonna wait for a request from the register of voters. I don't want to dictate what he does. I know we've tried that once before, so I'm just, for me,
It's not dictating what the register voter does. It's actually being fair to this community and being fair to this parish.
Thank you, Mr. Otan. Mr. Grove.
Yeah, I was just gonna, like, I don't want to say, kind of like Councilman Otan said, we're not doing that for the DA's office and library, you know, all these other different entities. That's what kind of throws me off, to single one department out, you know.
And Mr. Grove, the DA office, the clerk of court office advertise in the parish.
Through our
That's
site?
why
Through
we're
our
not-
site?
Through our site, through their site, through the newspaper, the Daily Comet, the Lafourche Gazette, the Times, the Humble Times. They advertise for jobs.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Grow. And just a question for my clarity. The Register of Voters is a state position or state employed, so it's advertised through the state employment website only, correct? Is that what the issue is?
Right. And we
So
actually
this is
advertise.
just so it's advertised locally as
Locally.
well as that state site?
Right,
So the
exactly.
Register of Voters doesn't have to do anything else?
You don't have to do
We
anything.
just share their information?
Exactly.
So the application still goes to the same place?
They go to,
Nothing
everything goes to the
changes?
same place.
Okay. That clears it up for me. Any other discussions on 21? All right, we'll take 21 for a vote. All in favor? All right, any opposed? Nay. So you got nays, raise your hand. You have 2 yeas, well, 3 yeas and 4 nays. So item fails with 2 yeas, 4 nays, and 2 absences being Mr. Melvin and Mrs. Chasson. Is the math correct?
No, we need one more.
Oh, 3. 3 yeas. 3 yeas, Jones, Adams, Wendell. 4 nays, and in 2 absences, Mr. Melvin and Mrs. Chasson. Item 22, a resolution accepting a grant from the Bayou Community Foundation in the amount of $5,000 for the Reverend Lloyd Wallace Community Center and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer any and all relevant documents. Motion by Mr. Araby, second by Mr. Ota. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes 7 yeas, 0 nays, 2 absences being Mr. Melvin and Mrs. Chasson. Item 23, a resolution approving an interagency agreement between the Lafourche Parish School District and Lafourche Parish Government Head Start Program to coordinate efforts for the 2022-2023 school year to identify and serve children who are at risk for developmental delays and/or have exceptional needs, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said agreement and any and all relevant documents. Motion by Mr. Jones, second by Mr. Adams. Any discussion? All right, we'll move to a vote. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes 7 yeas, 0 nays, 2 absences being Mr. Melvin and Mrs. Chasson. Item 24, resolution approving an agreement between the Louisiana Department of Natural Resources and Lafourche Parish Government to continue the Coastal Zone Management Program for the 2022 through 2025 fiscal years, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said agreement and any and all relevant documents. Motion by Mr. Lorraine, second by Mr. Otan. Any discussion? We'll take 24 to a vote. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes 7 yeas, 0 nays, 2 absences being Mr. Melvin and Mrs. Chasson. Item 25, resolution approving amendment number 2 to the agreement between Lafourche Parish Government and Sea Level Construction Incorporated for the project titled Hurricane Item Storm Damage Repairs to Parish Bridges, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said amendment and any and all relevant documents. Motion by Mr. Jones, second by Mr. Adams. Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just so you guys in the public knows, this is actually a no-dollar change order. This is amendment to their contract itself to add in some federal provisions for FEMA reimbursement purposes.
Thank you for that clarification. Any other council discussion on item 25? All right, we'll take it to a vote. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes 7 yeas, 0 nays, 2 absences being Mr. Melvin and Mrs. Chasson. Item 26, resolution amending resolution number 21-319 that approved the hiring of an attorney and/or their law firm when necessary to perform any and all legal defense services for Lafourche Parish Government and to provide compensation in accordance with the Louisiana Attorney General's fee schedule, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer any and all relevant documents. Motion by Mr. Adams, second by Mr. Jones. Any discussion? We'll take it to a vote. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes 7 yeas, 0 nays, 2 absences being Mr. Melvin and Mrs. Chasson. Item 27, resolution appointing 1 member of the Hospital Service District Number 1 Board. Motion by Mr. Jones. Mr. Jones, who do you have?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. We'd like to have John Melanson Jr.
John Melanson Jr., seconded by Mr. Adams. Any discussion on John Melanson Jr.? Item 27. Mr. Lorraine.
Yeah, Neil Martin has decided to step down, and I just want to thank him for serving. And John Melanson Jr. is the next appointment. It looks like the Port Commission is going to run the hospital. Out of 5 members, we got 3 members from the port. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lorraine. Any further discussion on item 27? All right, we'll take it to a vote. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes 7 yeas, 0 nays, 2 absences, being Mr. Melvin and Mrs. Chasson. Item L, Parish President, Department Heads, Directors, or Managers' Reports, Presentations, and/or Updates. Item 28, Financial Representative to present the monthly financial report as required by the state agreed-upon procedures for June 2022. Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You guys should have all received a copy of the monthly financials as per the AUPs. And I think, what month are we in? So the end of August should be Renita's quarterly presentation.
All righty, thank you very much, sir. Item M, questions for the administration. Anyone with any specific questions? Mr. Ote.
I would just like for the parish president to give an update on where we stand with FEMA and the housing and stuff. I know we had a meeting today with the mayor and et cetera.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Ote. Mr. Chairman, we did have a meeting this morning with the landowner, the mayor of the town of Lockport, Councilman Ote, and myself. It does seem that the FEMA site at the McLeod is going to go forward because of some of the comments that were received during that public hearing. When FEMA came and did the outline of all the group sites, they mysteriously found another couple of hundred private sites to put trailers on in existing trailer parks. So this site's been vastly reduced to only about 80. And I would venture to guess that by the time this thing opens up in September, that we're going to be well shy of that. Not knowing. We have our weekly call on Thursday, but last Thursday's slides, we've had about 60 move-outs so far. So that means people are actually getting out of the FEMA units. I asked where they were bringing these things to, because I was thinking, well, if we need 80 in Lockport per your numbers, where are we hauling the 60 move-outs we have so far? And they told me they were being staged in Baton Rouge. So we had a pre-permit meeting with the contractor last Wednesday with our permitting staff and Tony and his crew. So they're slated to start in the next couple of weeks. They anticipate to be done somewhere in September. So we'll see some move-ins hopefully shortly after that. I will say, and we have asked that every person moving into the trailer park be mandated to sign the information waiver so they can share, so FEMA can share their information with us, mainly so we can give that information to the sheriff's office to have them basically run those people to make sure we don't have any pedophiles or felons or anything like that in those things. We heard some concerns, Ms. Mulbrew, so I appreciate it when you're bringing those to the forefront. So we're slowly working through all those remaining issues. Had a couple of questions that came out of the meeting this morning we're going to address between the landowner and the weekly call we have with FEMA.
Thank you, Mr. President.
I just want to, and Archie, I sent you an email and I copied the individual, but I thank you for squashing the rumor mill that still continues about so many other sites still ongoing or in development. So thank you for squashing that real quick last week.
And I will say, we did get a couple of emails from Councilman Melvin, I know he's not here tonight, about a group site going on in Terrebonne Parish, right on the border of Lafourche and Terrebonne around the Burma area. So we're scheduled to meet with some residents, some representatives from Terrebonne Parish, both sheriff's offices, as well as FEMA and the design team to talk through a whole host of issues with those guys next week. So we'll be working with Councilman Melvin on that.
Thank you, gentlemen. Mr. Crowe, you had something or no? All right, Mr. Adams.
Yeah, so when was the hurricane last year?
We're coming up on a year. It'll be
And
August
there's
29th.
people been homeless since then?
Yeah, so we talked a little about this morning. The housing number actually every day, whether we're talking about the state's program or the FEMA program, continues to grow. So what we're seeing is, you know, Councilman Adams, your house may have been destroyed. You've just settled with your insurance sort of thing. And now you've completely gutted your house. You can't live in there, so you need someplace to live. So we're seeing some things like that. We're seeing, like we had a call, and I forget where it was from, that we sent Wade out to. This lady was actually still living in her car with her kids. Like she had just slipped through the cracks. So it's small things like that that we're finding that are creeping up the number. Again, I don't anticipate this thing getting to 80 trailers. I don't see how we make it, but it's there if we need them.
I just think it's ridiculous, though, the amount of time it took for this.
No doubt.
That's all I'm saying.
No doubt.
Just don't make no sense.
Thank you, Mr. Adams. Mr. Lorraine.
Yeah, I think all along I said that when these 3 sites come up, McLeod, Valentine, Trish, I think that's the biggest waste of money they ever done with the Trish site. We don't have a trailer in there on 3235. You got all the space in the world down the bayou. I got my neighbor I talked to yesterday, Mr. Sheremy. FEMA went there. 5 FEMA people went there, measured out 31 spots, never heard from them again. But go look on 3235. That's the biggest waste of money I've ever seen in my life. I don't even know if they're going to use it. They're not even using the one in La Rose. So where do you think they're going to use the one on 3235? That's a bunch of bull. FEMA says they want to help people. I think I think the ones that work there, they help themselves.
Which one in La Rose, Daniel?
Bar house,
Oh,
that's not maybe 50% capacity. I'm not blaming you, I'm just saying that,
I appreciate that for once. You don't blame me.
no, I'm not.
Thank you.
I'm not really blaming you, but whoever put this together, it just doesn't make sense. Anybody with common sense is gonna tell you it don't make sense. I mean, they're supposed to be helping people. I look at it, they're helping certain people, not helping the people they should be helping. And most people getting their trailers or RVs brought back, they're getting their letter in the mail, being evicted, and they're coming and picking them up. So here you got a place that they even got a little bus stop on this one. Can you believe that? And people are getting them picked up. There's not even one in there yet. But everything's beautiful over there. I wonder why. I'll let the people figure that one out. And the next thing, Archie, I'm going to blame you on this one, though. The library. Had 8 people there last night. They basically said it was all the administration's fault. Did we get any insurance money from the Golden Meadow Library?
No, sir.
South Lafourche Library?
No, sir.
No help from FEMA?
No, sir.
Okay. So, like I said, they were blaming everything on y'all.
And look, Daniel, I will say, and I wasn't.
And I was there,
It's-
and 2 councilmen from Golden Meadow was there. Nobody said nothing ugly,
Yeah, no.
but they were throwing y'all under the bus, I can tell you that.
So I will say that on Thursday, Mitch and I had a conversation with the representative of the carriers, and this is by no means their fault. It's the carriers we've been working with, and I basically sent them a letter that said if we were not paid most of what we were owed by the end of the month, that we would start some legal proceedings, right? And it's a shame that we as the government have to get to that point, but we're like everybody else in this world, right? We're still fighting that insurance. A lot of what the work we have done has been funded out of the fund balance we had in buildings and maintenance.
Right.
We've had to use that, and just as you saw Matt talk in the audit report, we commingled so much stuff right after the hurricane that we had to put together the remediation efforts so that we could save a lot of these buildings. So once we get those, i.e. the reason we bonded out all of this money, so we can cash flow this until FEMA reimburses us and the insurance money starts to come in on the building side. We're hopeful that happens. We got some information this afternoon that the last carrier had signed off on the adjusters reports. So I'm hopeful that in the next couple of days, we start to see some movement and get a wire transfer in. That'll be a nice tranche of money. It'll be, I don't know, over 10 million that we can use to start re-roofing and doing all the things we need to do.
So before you can get help from FEMA, you have to settle with the insurance.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
And they haven't done it yet.
That's right. And again, like I said, when the discussion happened at the last meeting about bonding out the money, I'm pretty sure we're gonna be made close to hold on the building side, right? The majority of that money we bonded out is gonna go into pump station repairs and the infrastructure side that we did not have insurance coverage on. That'll be used to cash flow that until we get those FEMA reimbursements.
Okay. Because I know you wasn't there last night. You probably came in late, whatever, but they passed it on to the administration. That's all I can tell you.
I'll reach out to Laura and talk to her.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Rain. Ms. Dotan.
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up on what Thibodaux was saying about people still living. So we actually talked about this earlier, Thibodaux, because it's a problem and it's going to continue to be a problem. But some of the trailers have been picked up because some people have decided they're not rebuilding, they just stay in there. So there's no progress being made. So FEMA has scooped up those trailers in town, gone. So people are choosing to live in their cars, boats, tents. These little floating barges are popping up all over in the bayou. So it's a problem, and there's going to be a point in time where it's going to come that those trailers are going to have to go, state and FEMA. And it's going to be a problem, because what do you do with those people if they have not made those repairs? Luckily, most people are. The elderly people that I was referencing right now are making really good progress, or nonprofits that are helping them to overcome depreciation and deductibles that FEMA didn't catch for the insurance. So anyway, it's going good. I do want to thank the parish president again for, with the debris contractors. There was no comment here, but they have been rolling down through the area, all the way down south, Daniel. And I'm thankful that we agreed to take care of the state's part. So there's been a lot of material picked up. I know in 308 and LA1 on my side, and y'all have been very responsive. Thank you, Dylan, for that. Appreciate it. Same thing to you, Mitch. The last thing we'll talk about is tall grass. I want to thank the administration for doing what they can. I've been trying to explain to a lot of people lately, especially, we have a lot of homes that have been abandoned since the hurricane, and people are calling and demanding that we get in there and cut that grass. And I'm trying to explain to them if they can please contact that landowner, if they were their neighbor, if they knew him, to ask for permission for them to go cut it, or if they can get those people to come down and cut it, because we have a process. It's private property. Government cannot walk on the private property no more than the people who's calling can. So when they say, well, why can't you go cut it? Well, same reason you can't. We can't go on somebody's private property and cut it. So it's a 4 to 6 month, as the last thing you said. So I'm just restating it. It's 4 to 6 months for the parish government to go and clean somebody's yard, and the clock starts all over after that happens again. So best thing you can do is try to be as nice as you can. We had a success story last week down on one of my streets, where the people came down and they bush hogged the yard that hadn't been touched as a hurricane. So I just want to reemphasize that, and it's challenging times, and we just keep pushing along.
Yeah, and I will say, Councilman Otan, I put something out on Facebook, much to Robbie's chagrin today, because I was just irritated with it. You know, people often say, well, you know, why didn't the parish go cut it, right? And it seems like a logical answer. And we could very well pull a tractor off of a parish street to go cut a state road. But which one of your districts do I pull that tractor from, right? What parish street?
Keep cleaning the outfalls for me.
That's right. Which outfall do we pull that tractor, that operator off of to go cut something that you pay taxes to the state to do? We have had some discussions as of late with DOTD. Dylan and I went to Baton Rouge a couple of months ago talking about drainage, and if DOTD would be willing to work with the parish to keep up some of those drainage ditches, especially in Councilman Adams' area after those floods in 2021 on 304. We're going to reinitiate those conversations again because they've stalled, and ask again. I know Councilman Arabi and I have had this conversation as well about, you know, the city of Thibodaux, the town of Golometa, they get paid to cut the grass along those state routes. Those are very abbreviated state routes. For us to look at something like that, we really have to put pen to paper to see if we can make the numbers work. Because if we start cutting LA1, 308, 307, 32, 35 from top to bottom, that's a lot of tractors and a lot of people. So we're gonna go back to that. I actually sent an email a while ago to Josh with DOTD asking some specific questions about how many acres are in Lafourche on roadsides, what's their current cost to cut them in-house, and then what would that agreement look like if they were to send it to us? Because while it may be, we use round numbers, right, $40 for an in-house DOTD person to cut it, that may not be what they pay us to do it. So we're gonna have to put some pen to paper on that.
Thank you, Mr. Otan. Mr.
Can I, just real quick, because earlier I brought up Stacy Fontenot's name with Entergy, so I just want to comment. She just responded saying that she's on it. She's waiting on a response from the supervisor. So thank you very much, Stacy.
Thank you, Mr. Otan. Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Jones.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. President, just like to thank you and your administration for the last week and the beginning of this week for the rail representation for the Lafourche Parish and the state of Louisiana on the Gulf Coast meeting. Archie did an exceptionally well job representing this parish, and we should be proud of you. Thank you for that. Also like to thank administration, you, and working so diligent and hard on the cameras in Marydale. They're starting to pop up, and in the next month or two, we have another section, so appreciate that. Also, I'd just like to say, if we can't request a separate resolution from the state of Louisiana, but we expect you to push FEMA to do individual deals. That's not happening. And I respect you for standing firm. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. And before we move on from item M, we'll allow a very brief statement from Ms. Jamie Malbrew in this section directed at the administration. Just please remember to state your name and address for the record again.
Jamie Marlborough, 116 Sealess Lane, Lockport. I just want to say thank you for your guys' work on the FEMA trailers, because my greatest concern when I came here and found out about it was how it was going to impact our public school system. And Ms. Sotan, thank you for bringing it up and sharing that information and squashing rumors. And also, I've been watching Facebook, and you've been putting stuff out there. When you need us to write, we're going to write, and I'm going to make sure I get the people fired up to write when you need that support. And I think that's what it's all about. So I just want to say thank you to all of y'all.
Thank you, Mrs. Marlborough. Moving on to item N, Parish President's final comments. Mr. President.
Two things real quick, Mr. Chairman. We had a good meeting early last week with FEMA regarding the Raceland soccer fields. Lacey and Mr. Pat were there representing the rec district. They hired a brand-new separate contractor to go in there and take care of the fields. They're gonna take it from start to finish and maintain it in between with watering and mowing, including a temporary irrigation system, so we can make sure things happen right this time. All intents and purposes are, they should have everything ready to go by November, according to the new contractor, so we'll keep you guys enlightened on that as they get started. And just a quick shout out to our Bayou Blue, Lockport, and Raceland field offices, specifically Vaughn and Mr. Sonny for their leadership. We finished cleaning out the Pointe-au-Chien drainage canal, so the big canal you drive by when you headed up or down 655. Still had a ton of debris in it from Hurricane Ida. Also want to thank President Dove. He sent some folks from Terrebonne Parish, some dump trucks and some equipment and flaggers to help us clean out that canal for that community, to help them drain. So kudos to our guys once again for going above and beyond, and a job well done. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. We'll move on to item O, adjournment. Motion by Mr. Adams, second by Mr. Jones, that with no further business, the Lafourche Parish Council regular meeting of July 26, 2022 be adjourned. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes with 7 yeas, 0 nays, 2 absences being Mr. Melvin and Mrs. Chasson at 6:16 p.m.